first video for the Yoga Online Summit. Still haven't figured out the name for it, but I do want to move forward with this idea for creating valuable content for yoga teachers. And first up, I'm bringing a good friend, Dustin. We're here at Warrior One in Mordialloc. You also have a studio in Brighton? Yeah.
Warrior One Yoga. You can find us on all the social media channels. But yeah, very special place where we do amazing things.
I just got done doing a 90-minute yoga class. I say I because you were teaching it. So we just did a 90-minute class. So it was pretty epic. And today I want to talk with Dustin about some of his mindset principles. He has an amazing journey. So first off, I want to give you kind of like a peek into where he's been and where he is now. So could you share maybe where you come from and then what were you doing before yoga?
Okay, so I am originally from Kauai, Hawaii. Born and raised there, and it's a very surreal place to grow up. You know, grew up in the ocean, literally Ned was chucking me off of the pier into the water before I could actually walk. And surfing was a big part of my life, and I was lucky enough to be a pro surfer for a few years, and that brought me to Australia and got me to be able to travel and to see a bit of the world. Settled in Australia about 13 years ago, met my wife Nova and never looked back. And it's been a pretty big adventure, but through that, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and eventually yoga became a huge part of my life. And now here we are.
Yeah.
If you would have told me 10 years ago that I would own 2 yoga studios and be very into yoga, I would have literally told you to fuck off. Yeah, no. And so I feel I've done a very big transformation, and I feel like I look back at pictures of me back in that day, 10 years ago, and like, who is that person? It's pretty amazing what yoga and these mindset principles and meditation, what the practice gives to us. It's actually awesome.
So what I'm hearing is that there was a lot of transformation. What was kind of like the catalyst for you to go through those experiences of transformation?
For me, like, I am addicted to the flow state. So surfing.
What's the flow state for some of the people that
For you don't understand the flow state. The flow state is the zone or that state that you can achieve when all the conditions around you align, where your focus is zeroed in on exactly what you're doing. There's no care of the past or the future. You're perfectly present in the now, and it's almost like a heightened sense of awareness, where like your hearing is sharper, your touch is more sensitive, and your vision is razor sharp. It's a very cool place to be. Like athletes talk about it when they're performing at their best, and same with musicians and anything that requires a high level of concentration and focus. So to find that zone or that flow state is what we're all after when we're doing these things, but often it can be hard to achieve. And things like surfing, when you're riding the wave, there literally is, if you're anywhere else but there, you're gonna fall, you're gonna eat it, you're gonna get eaten by the ocean. So same thing in yoga, in an intense yoga practice or pose, like there's moments of rest, but if you're in a handstand and your mind's going everywhere, you're not gonna hold it for long at all.
It's true.
So true, right? So same thing with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If you're not paying attention, if you're not perfectly present, you get choked out. You die on the mat. And so this made me realize that, one, my attention is very diffused in the everyday. And this is a realization of very recently. But every day, my attention is very diffused. It's being pulled outwards. And these practices, like surfing, yoga, and jiu-jitsu, allow you to take that diffused energy and harness it into something really powerful and potent. And the feeling that comes with that is really special. And so in this world where everything is, our attention is getting distracted and pulled away by everything in every moment. From the moment we wake up, our phone, and other family and kids and things like that, our responsibilities. I'm not saying that's bad, but if we don't ever have the practice of bringing it back in, we start to feel separate from the world or lost.
Yeah.
And so,
I hear you.
Yeah, if we have something to bring us into this flow state or into that point of focus, everything seems to line up. We're happier. Pretty special.
And for you, I mean, yoga's been a big part of your life. How have you seen yourself change with that integration of yoga practice?
I remember I just started yoga. When I started yoga, it was purely physical. I just wanted to feel good in my body, and the practice was definitely doing that. And it would annoy me when the teachers talked about spirituality or, you know, deities and God and these divine, these kind of concepts where I wasn't ready to hear. But the practice cracked me open in a good way. It really softened me and made me realize, well, if simple movement and breath can make me feel amazing, why am I so closed to sounds and just different thoughts that I can choose to take on or to leave there? And so the practice really made me aware that there's so much out there that my beliefs had limited me to believing like my way was the best way and the only way. Yoga allowed me to find that a lot of these concepts were kind of not true or wrong. And yeah, so it started purely physical. In time, I started questioning the sensations I was feeling, these experiences that the physical wasn't explaining. Like where I went in my mind in Shavasana, these feelings and these places. So yeah.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
I think it's good sharing, though. I think, you know, people are going to be happy to hear this. What's running through my mind is like, I love yoga, and I believe you do also, but is there things that you're seeing that's happening within the modern yoga movement that you feel needs to be brought to light? Tough question.
Tough question.
Because I mean, yoga has allowed me to travel the world, and it's done the same for you, and it's enriched my heart and my mind. So I want to come at this in a positive, constructive way. Like, hey, these things are happening. Some people are thinking about it, but maybe not too many are talking about it.
Okay, so the trend, and I've seen this on Instagram lately, is people being like posting a pose of them sitting or in meditation, and just even one of my teachers posted this recently, and he's like, I'm having this struggle because I'm flicking through Instagram and I'm just seeing advanced asana to sell yoga pants or yoga clothing.
Right.
And no real soul behind it, no principles of yoga behind it, and they're saying that really frustrates them. And so I get what they're saying. They're also saying like they're having these deep experiences in meditation and through their subtle yogic practices, which don't involve asana, and you can't really show that in an image format. How can you translate to others that you had this deep meditation, this profound experience through a photo?
Right.
It's not too exciting. The photo's kind of boring, to be honest. And so I totally get it. And so I think there is this thirst for authenticity and genuine expression of what the yoga practice is, so much more than just asana. It's just one of the 8 limbs, right? And I see that perspective, but I want to remind people that are kind of anti-yoga photos or putting an asana on their pages is it brings so many people to the practice.
Yeah.
It brought me to the practice. I would not practice yoga if it was not for the physical and the asana. And through that was the gateway for me that opened up my mind and prepared me to be able to meditate, to be able to practice concentration and all the yamas and niyamas, to be a nicer person so I could do that. And without the physical, I would have never even thought of exploring it.
Right. I had the same thing for me as well.
I would have been totally resistant.
Yes.
So I totally get that. I just think it is so important that we don't become, what's the term? Spiritually materialistic.
I like that one.
Yeah, we don't want to be spiritually materialistic. We don't want to be holier than thou and get to these things and have these experiences where they are improving us as humans. We're having these moments of enlightenment, right? We get a glimpse of the nectar. And then we look at other people like, oh, they're just doing asana. They're so much more evolved than that person. They're just posting about pants.
Do you feel that there's a wave of entitlement happening because of social media?
I think we can all have moments of that. I do see it in certain posts, and I do think, you know what, that's kind of spiritual materialism, or they're being triggered, and you're letting these things trigger you. So when I see it and they trigger me, I try and filter it through a lens of positivity.
Yeah.
and just be like, and just they're on their path.
Yeah.
That's their path. Let them be on their path. I think I've shared the saying with you before, but there are many paths up the mountain. They all lead to the same place. And none of them are the wrong path. The only person who is wrong is the one running around yelling at other people saying, you're on the wrong path.
Yeah.
It's the only person who's stuffing it up. So
this is why I have him on the summit. Such a wise man. You used the word authenticity. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of yoga teachers that are watching this, and a lot of new yoga teachers who kind of have that in their framework of like, how do I find my voice? How do I become authentic? What would you say to those people who are kind of like on that quest of discovering that for themselves?
Who are you? And not for me, like the question, who am I? Like actually think about it. What do you present? And what are you putting out into the world? Like, who are you? And if you're not sure, ask your friends, ask your family, like, what do you see me as? How would you describe me to someone that's never met me before? And see what they say.
Yeah.
And it might just be like, oh yeah, that's me. Or it might be revealing. It might be like, really? I don't feel like that's me. And you might realize that you're putting something out there that really isn't how you want to be viewed. And so when it comes to teaching and being authentic in your teaching, I think it really starts there. Who are you? What is your personality? And how can you let that shine through? Because that's what we really connect to in a class format. When the teacher is real, authentic, and they're not putting something on. Like we've all been to a class where the teacher puts on a voice, and
that yoga voice.
And don't get me wrong, sometimes it's beautiful because what they're sharing is from their experience, and that voice just drops you in and it's special. Like there's people with a gift, and like
for sure
use that gift. That's wow. But I think when it becomes kind of like, come into your downward facing dog and lift your right leg to the sky. Inhale the heavens within you, and it becomes a show.
A little bit of a theater play.
And I think you can use beautiful languaging that creates imagery with each word, but use your voice.
Yeah.
Be you. Be real, and then people really connect to that. So I could put on that fancy voice, or I could use my voice and say, come into downward facing dog and lift your right leg to the sky. It's going to have the same effect, and it feels so real. Whereas before, it was funny. It was like, that's not Dustin.
Yeah.
Who's this English?
I would look up
this
if
one
you did that during class. I'd be like, bro, what's going on? What are you doing right now?
Who's this person with a bad English accent? So I think inadvertently, when we start teaching, there can be this urge to want to emulate a teacher that you really like, or someone that you really look up to, and that's a beautiful thing. But emulate what they say, don't try and copy their voice or something like that. That can be big. And another huge one is owning your mistakes.
Yeah.
When you stuff up, just laughing.
Yeah.
And just being like,
it's all right. It's okay to mess up. Yeah.
That's right. So fail a lot and own it. And I'll never forget, being a studio owner, we get a lot of feedback. I'll never forget one of our members who is a doctor came to me and pulled me aside and say, hey, one of your teachers needs to really brush up on her anatomy. She's using alignment cues, and she's cueing internal rotation when she clearly should be saying external.
Yeah.
And
it's a big difference.
That's a big difference. And I think we all can I stuff up left and right a lot, and I really work at not doing it, but it still happens. Just correct yourself openly, have a little laugh, and move on. Because if you don't, the doctor in the room is going to catch it, the movement professionals in the room are going to catch it, and whereas all you had to say was like, sorry, I meant external rotation, let's roll the shoulders out, that feels so much better, and just own it, then, because literally I went to that teacher that I was pulled up on, and I said to her, I was like, look, let's talk about internal, external rotation. She's like confused. I was like, look, I had feedback, this person's a doctor. She's like, oh my God, I know that exact moment, and I know I stuffed up the word, and I just didn't correct myself, I just continued on. So that one moment gave a doctor an impression that she had no idea what she was talking about, and changed her perception. And we fixed that up, and now she owns it, and it's just so nice. It's refreshing.
Yeah.
If the teacher can laugh at themselves, because everyone in the room is already nervous, already trying to hold themselves to, you know, perfection in their mind or whatever it is. So when you can just be soft, genuine, human.
Yeah. I love how, you know, when you're touching authenticity in many different ways, not just on like finding your voice, but also just accepting what's happening. You know?
That's part of it.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it a real experience, because they'll be talking, they'll be all good, and then something will clearly go wrong, and then it gets all awkward.
Right.
And you're like, what's going on? Oh, well, that was just an awkward part of the class. Like, we've all been there. It's happened to us.
It's happened, yeah.
Yeah, it's been me for sure. And so I've been like, you know what? I didn't handle it. I'm just gonna speak to the giant elephant in the room. We'll get it done with, and then we can have a laugh. It's not awkward, and we go on.
That's a secret right there.
Laugh at it. Make it funny. Like, you know, you can't make fun of injury, but if someone has a little slip, a little tumble, and they're totally fine,
Yeah.
we all slip, we all fall. I laugh at myself, especially when I fall. So I think that's a huge part of it. Just be fun.
Yeah. Totally with you. Let's see the time. I do want to talk. Alright. I definitely want to talk about gratitude. We both have this practice in play, but I know that you are definitely inspired by it on the daily. Do you want to talk about what your gratitude practice looks like? It probably is very similar.
Yeah, super simple.
And how it's made a tremendous, if tremendous, impact in your life.
So
And we'll leave it on that.
Okay. So gratitude has had a huge effect on my life. And I love how Tony Robbins described it. He's like, gratitude is a superpower. It is impossible to be fearful and be grateful at the same time.
Yeah.
It's impossible to be angry at someone at the same time. And so literally, you know, having a wife trains you to forgive, because you have to forgive your partner. And in any relationship, there's always moments of fighting and letting go. And so that, for me, being grateful when you're pissed off is a way to instantly drop it and to change your state. And so it works there. When you're being fearful, if you start reminding yourselves, like I used to do jiu-jitsu competitions, and that would make me nervous. Anxiety creeps up. Focus on what you're grateful for. I'm so stoked I had the opportunity to do this. I had all this training up until this point, and you start to change the story, and it changes your state. You feel good from it. So I started really utilizing that on the daily. Every morning when I get up, I have my meditation practice. But before that, I take 3 to 5 minutes just to sit there. Literally, I take a few breaths, and I'm like, what am I grateful for right here in this moment? And usually I start with the first, most simple thing that pops into my mind. And since I just got out of bed, usually it's like, oh, Ninja the dog was giving me cuddles. Or Nova said something nice before she left. Or I woke up this morning. If I'm struggling, I'm like, I'm alive. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's a huge
It's a
thing.
big one.
Huge thing to remind
Just
yourself.
to breathe is, you know,
To
you
be
can be
grateful.
grateful on that. There's thousands upon thousands of things, you know.
And so the science behind it, you're just wiring your brain to search for the positive instead of the negative.
Right.
And when you start your day off in that way, you start feeling nice. And then if something happens that isn't ideal, you've already had that kind of pre-frame. You're like, but I have these things to remind myself of. And that continues. I find when I do start my days in that way, which I've been doing consistently, and I also have been finishing up in the evening with the carry on, which is like, what could have made today better?
Right.
Usually the answer to that question is what I do first thing the next day. Yeah? It's like, I didn't get to practice today. Yoga would have made today so much better. Tomorrow, guarantee I'm gonna practice.
Yeah.
So that's it. Every day, taking a moment first thing in the morning, just to remind yourself of what you're grateful for. And that doesn't have to be a big process. You could write it down. I have an app on my phone that I put it in. But some days, I don't have my app in front of me, and I just make it a mental process. I just sit there, think of my 3 things, let a smile creep on my face as I take a breath and remind myself of why they make me feel so good, and then move on.
Easy.
Easy. That's it. And the overall effect is just huge. More positive, feel happier. At the end of the week, you can look back on these things and remind yourself. Me and Nova often lie in bed, and just before bed, she's like, what are you grateful for today? And I tell her and share my
That's
3
a good
things.
practice, yeah.
and then she tells
showered
me
each other with that gratitude.
Yeah, it's just so nice. We've been sharing this on every retreat that we've been running and asking people to bring that home with them, and just the feedback of how that's changed their lives just makes me so happy. I hear the stories and it brings tears to my eyes just to know that something so simple can be so powerful in transforming people's attitudes towards their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's leave it on that.
Nice.
Cool. Where could people find you and this amazing space?
So this is at 228 Beach Road, Mordialloc, the old Morty Surf, an iconic place. Drive to Morty and you can't miss it. It's on the roundabout. Brighton, 461 New Street. You can find us at warrior1yoga.com.au. You can find me on Instagram at dbrownyoga. Same on Facebook. And I hope to see you on the map.
There we go.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you for tuning in.
All right.
Cool, man.
Nice.
How'd that feel?
Good. Easy. I might have bowed.